Hello, thank you for joining me. I'm Coach Mel. This is Coach Mel's Crochet Corner. Today we are going to be going through the instructions to make this crossbody bag. It's got a nice long strap to it. We have a little flap here, and we did a little loop closure here. The finished dimensions are about 10 inches high and about 8.5 inches wide. You'll see that it does take a little taper here. You'll see why as we start working on it. We did a nice double thickness down here for the end of it. It does have just a little bit of width to it, not a whole lot, but great for throwing a few things in. A standard iPad actually just fits in here. Or you can, throw in a wallet, some glasses, your phone, and off you go. Throw it over your shoulder. So let's start by going over the materials that you're going to need for this. So the yarn that I used is this twisted jean yarn, and this was purchased through Mary Maxim. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this is still available. I just went on the site the other day, and the only one that they had was the blue, and it's also on sale on their site right now. So I'm wondering if maybe this is being discontinued. But you're going to need one of each color if you want the stripes to be similar to what I did on mine here. Obviously, you can change that up. You can do it more solid, just have that decorative row, however you want to do it. But I used 3 different colors, and I probably had about 1/3 of each skein left when I was done with this. Each skein, if we flip it over here, you'll see is 218 yards. Now, this doesn't have the typical yarn size 3, 4, whatever, but this is, in some yarns they'd call it a 4, in some they'd call it a 3. It's on the thinner side. I wouldn't call it a worsted weight, but it's also not super thin, so that is what I used. I actually have a little bit of this yarn left over from some other projects that I did, so I will make a link available. I think I could put together 3 kits of this, so if you were interested, while they're available, while supplies last, I'd have a kit available that would include the 3 balls. It would include a button, which you'll see you need a button for this as well, and the written instructions. So I will put more information down below for that. So that's the yarn that you're going to need. Like I said, there is a button on there, so you're going to need a button. This is about a 1-inch button, and a needle that can fit through that hole. So that's important. I also have my bigger needle, but that one doesn't fit through. So I use 2 needles for this. This will be for my weaving in, and this one I'm going to use when it comes to putting that button on. All right. I also like to have a couple of bobby pins nearby. You'll see me use those as markers, and if you haven't checked out my 5 crochet hacks using bobby pins, I will include that link as well. And of course, we need our hook, so I used an H or a 5mm for this one. So go ahead and gather all of your supplies, and we will get started on this fun project. All right, we're gonna go ahead and start with the bottom of our bag. So I did tell you earlier that you only needed 1 skein of each color, but the bottom of the bag is gonna be doubled. So what I did is I took the skein and I balled about half of it so that I had it coming both from the ball, and then I still have it in the skein as well. If you have not worked with yarn doubled before, you might want to practice a little bit, but we're going to do a simple slip knot here. Pull that yarn through, and then let's get that hook and get it through both of those loops. So you just want to be careful that as you're working on this, that you're always getting through both loops. So we're going to start with a chain of 30 for the bottom of our bag. So go ahead, yarn over and pull through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Okay. So there's our base. So this is how wide it's going to be. So it's not extremely big. I wanted this to be just a small little purse to throw a few things in, throw it over my shoulder, and off we go. So now what we're going to do is a single crochet down this first side of the chain. So we're going to skip this first chain and we're going to go into the second. Now I'm going to try to bring this up a little bit so that you could see. So when I go through, you're going to make sure that you're under both of those strands. So it looks like I have 4 loops on it, even though it's really only 2, but because of the doubling up, all right? And then you're going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through both. So we're just doing a single crochet all the way down. So go into your next stitch. Again, make sure that you're getting both of them. Grab that yarn, yarn over, and pull through. So we're going to continue that all the way down until we get to that last stitch. So we're going to make this continuous, so it's not going to have to be pieced together at the end, which means we have to basically round the corners when we get down to the end. So go ahead and continue down with your single crochets, being careful to make sure that you get through both of those because we're working with double yarn here. You're getting through both of those loops. It looks like there's 4 loops on your hook. Technically there is, but it's because that yarn is doubled up. All right, so go ahead and finish that, putting that single row of single crochet into your chain, and I'll meet you down at the end. Okay, so I've made it down to the end of the chain. I have 1 chain left here. So this is where we're going to put 3 single crochets, and we're gonna mark that first one. And I mark with bobby pins. I don't know if any of you use these as markers, but if you don't, I highly suggest getting some. Make sure that they're the ones that are open on the end. It makes it super, super easy to mark your stitches. And they're, you know, you can get a whole bunch of them. I have them all over the place. I use them not only to mark stitches, but, you know, sometimes I use them as a holder in my magazine to hold the magazine open if I'm working from a pattern in a magazine. So they're really useful to have. Just throw them right in your crochet bag. Okay, so I'm going to go into this, this last one with a single crochet. So do 1, okay, and then I want you to mark that. So we're going to mark that stitch that we just made. So just take that and run that right through the stitch. So it's right where you would do a crochet is how you're going to mark it. And then just pull that through. And it just hangs there behind. It's really not in the way. But we need to put 2 more single crochets into this exact same spot because we're making this turn. So we're going to do another. That's 2. And we have 1 more. That's 3, okay? Now we've got to make our turn and we're going to come back down the outside of this chain. So it's a little bit tricky, especially the very first one. So right here, this is our knot from starting and doing our slip stitch, okay? And then right next to that knot is that first stitch that we need to get into, which is the back of the chain, all right? So you're gonna go into that. Now again, remember we're working with double yarn here, so it's gonna look like you have 4 on there when you get yourself through, okay? Get yourself into that, whoops, get those tails out of the way. And then we're gonna do single crochets. Whoop, I did not get it right. You could see when I pulled through that I did not have both of those on there. So right here, right past the knot, there we go. Pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. So now I'm just going into what's referred to as the back loop of that chain. So here's the next one, and it's a single crochet. Here's the next one, single crochet. So you're gonna continue, see that it's this bump right here. So it's not the actual stitch. This is where we did the stitches on the way down. We're just getting this bump, which is the back bump, and then single crochet all the way down. So I want you to do that down the back of this chain until you get down to the end where we have to put 3 in that last one again. So go ahead and finish your single crochets down the back of the chain, and I'll meet you down at the end. Okay, when you get down to the end, it could be a little bit tricky to figure out where your last stitch is going to go. But as you can see, these stitches right here are running across, and then these next ones come up. So this is from when we started with our single crochets, all right? And these coming across right here, that's that last one in that chain. So we're gonna go into that with a single crochet, and I'm gonna mark that again. That's gonna be really important for the next round. So go ahead and put that bobby pin in, or whatever you're using to mark, right where you would go through that stitch on the next row. And then again, we're gonna put 2 more into that same spot. So a single crochet for 2 and a single crochet for 3. So that kind of brings us around the corner, and it brings us back to that first single crochet that we did on the side of our chain. So if you take a look, you should be nice and even here. If you have lumps and bumps, you might want to just check and make sure that you didn't put 2 in one stitch. That will make it curve and do some funny things. Mine looks okay. I think I had a little bump here just because of tension, because it looks like my stitches are okay. All right, we're gonna do our next round here. Again, all single crochets. When we get down to this bobby pin is when we've gotta do something a little different. That's why I had you mark it, okay? So go ahead and starting right off with this very first single crochet when we started that chain, you're gonna continue with single crochets on the way down. So again, making sure that you're getting all the thicknesses. This is nice and thick in my hands. I love the way that it feels. It's gonna make a nice base for this. All right, and continue all the way down until you get to that bobby pin, and it's all just single crochets. I'll meet you down at the end. Okay, so I've made it down the end of this side, and I've gotten to my first bobby pin. So this stitch right here, we're going to do 2 single crochets. So I'm gonna take that bobby pin out because I know it's my next stitch. I'm gonna do 1 and 2 in that same one. All right, now the next one, I'm just gonna do 1. And then the third one of that corner, I'm gonna do another 2. So this is just helping, making our turn. This is giving a little bit of width to the bag, okay? And now what you're gonna do is you're gonna continue down this other side all the way down to the other bobby pin with single crochets. So just as we did before, just continue down, making sure that you're getting through all of the thicknesses. You're keeping that double yarn together as you continue down the side with singles. So go ahead, finish your singles down the side, and I'll meet you down at that second bobby pin. Okay, so I am down at the other end now. You can see that my bobby pin is here. Okay, so I'm gonna take that out. I know that that stitch needs to have my 2 singles. So I'm gonna do 1 and 2, okay? Next one, right here, gets just 1. Whoop, I'm through too much there. And then this last one over here to finish the corner is gonna get 2 again. 1, in that same hole, 2, okay? So now we've gone down and back, we've finished off each of the corners, and now we're just gonna do some rows of single crochet. We're just gonna keep going. So this is, again, the base of the bag, and there's just a little bit of width to it, not much, but now we're gonna come up just a little bit before we start to go into a different color and a different pattern. So you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna continue to do single crochets, just single crochets. So I don't have the bobby pins in anymore because we don't have to do anything special when we get down to the end this time. We are literally doing one single crochet in each stitch. All right, so go ahead and continue to do that, and we will meet up again. If you want to mark, you could mark where you did that last, the two right here, because then you'll know when you've made a loop around. So I am gonna go ahead and put my bobby pin back in there. So this is, when I did the corner, this is my last stitch where I put the 2 in 1, I marked it. And now I'm gonna continue to do my singles, and I'm gonna bring myself all the way around. Okay, as you can see here, I made it around back to where my bobby pin is. So that means that I've made one complete round. And as you can see, it's taking on a little bit of a curved shape. It's a little bit of a boat shape, all right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull that bobby pin out. I'm gonna do that last stitch right there. All right, and now I'm gonna put the bobby pin in my new row, because I want to do 2 more rows in this color in the same fashion. So again, this is the bottom of the bag, so it's going to come up a little bit with this color along the edge. And again, we're just going to continue with that single crochet. So all the way around, we're going to go around this 2 more times. So that's where I just put in that last one, and now I'm going to just bring myself around back to that bobby pin. I will move it up again once I get back over there, and then I'm gonna go around again. So you're gonna end up with 3 complete rounds after that row that we added onto. So go ahead, pause the video and complete that. Come back around 2 more times. All right, so I've made it around again. So I'm coming back to my marker, my bobby pin marker, for my 3rd round of my single crochets all the way around. Now, actually, I'm gonna stop right there because it's time to change colors. So we're gonna go into the body of the bag now. You can see we have this nice little boat shaped, it's nice and thick because we did that double yarn, okay? Now we're gonna go and start working on the rest of the bag, and I'm gonna change over to this blue yarn now. So it's the same yarn. I'm gonna do it single, so we're no longer using the 2 strands at the same time. So what you wanna do is on that very last one, while you still have your 2 loops, although it looks like 4 because we're doubled, while you have those on your hook, you're gonna take that color that you're switching to and you're gonna pull that through, all right? So that's how you bring in your new color. All right, from here, we're gonna do what's called a half double herringbone, or herringbone half double, I guess you'd call it. So it's not a very quick stitch, but it's really pretty, and I think it'll look nice on this. So we're gonna go into that next stitch, and we're gonna pull up our, oh, sorry. We're gonna yarn over first because this is a half double. We're coming into that stitch. We're gonna pull through, and now you're gonna pull through that first loop so that you only have 2 loops left on your hook there. And now you're gonna pull through and come through both of those. So on a typical half double, that last one you're coming through 3. But because we already came through 1 to start it, then we're only coming through 2. I'm gonna do a few more with you here. So yarn over, go into that next stitch, pull up your loop. You have 3 on your hook, but you're gonna come through that first one before you yarn over and come through for the final time. All right, let's do that again. So we're gonna yarn over, go into the next stitch and pull up your loop. You have 3 on your hook. before you yarn over, you're gonna come through that first loop, and then you're gonna yarn over and come through the next loop. So you're gonna continue to do that. We're gonna continue that same herringbone half double all the way down and around until we come back up. We'll do one more together and then I'll leave you to go finish. So yarn over first, go in through your stitch, pull up your loop. You have 3 on your hook. Come through the first stitch before you yarn over. Now we're gonna yarn over and come through 2. All right, so you're gonna continue to do that, like I said, all the way around. You gotta pause for that little second to get through that first hoop. Come through, yarn over and through. And we're gonna continue that. It gives a nice little slant to the stitch. You'll see it more as we make our way up. But go ahead and continue that all the way around to the start. All right, I've made it all the way around with that first layer, switching my color with my herringbone half. So I'm just gonna finish this last stitch right here. I didn't put a marker in because with a change of color, I knew exactly where I was gonna be for my last stitch. So now that finishes it off. So I'm going to continue because you saw that this is a striped bag. I'm gonna continue with this same stitch and I'm gonna go around 5 more times. So I'm gonna have a total of 6 rows of blue before I change to my next color. Now this time I am gonna mark where that last one was so that I could keep track of my rounds. So I just put in that last stitch for this round. So I'm gonna put my marker back in there so that I know when I come back around here. And like I said, I'm gonna continue doing that exact same stitch, that herringbone half double. I'm gonna continue around and I'm gonna do it for 5 more rounds. So I will have a total of 6 rows of this particular stitch in this light blue color before I switch to my, my nice mint green color. So you can go ahead and stop the video and continue to make yourself round. Now you don't have to do 6 rows if you want to do it wider or narrower. That's completely up to you. It's not going to impact the pattern at all. That's really up to your preference and what you like. If you like the way my bag came out, then this will be 6 rows before I switch to the next color. All right, I'll see you at the end of row 6. All right, so I just made my way around. I'm finishing that 6th row. So I'm gonna do my final herringbone half double here, right in that stitch where I have my marker. I'm gonna take that out now. Oh, actually, I need to bring that back a little bit because we gotta bring our next color in. Almost forgot about that. Okay, so with 2 loops still on your hook is when you're gonna grab your next color. So I have this nice mint green that we're gonna do as our next color. So I'm placing that right there on my hook. Go ahead and bring it through the 2 loops of that last color. Give a little pull. And now we're ready to go around doing the same thing. I'm doing that herringbone half and I'm doing it all the way around. And we're going to do this for 6 rows as well. So that's gonna give us a nice thick stripe of each color. We have our base in the brown, which is nice and thick because we doubled it. We have our first stripe in the blue, and now we're gonna do the green. So go ahead and turn the video off and do your herringbone half double all the way around, and we're gonna do 6 rounds of this color as well. All right, so I'm just finishing up on my 6th row in the green. So I'm gonna put my last herringbone half double right here where my bobby pin marker is. All right, but I'm gonna stop right there because we're gonna change colors again. I'm gonna take my marker out. So we're gonna start doing that decorative center row. So we're gonna start this next row off we're gonna do all singles. So all the way around, let's bring in our new color. I'm going back to the brown. Wanted to make an interesting little pattern here in the middle. So let's pull that in, make sure we pull that down. And now we're just gonna go one round of single crochet. So I'm gonna start right in that next stitch, and I'm gonna yarn over, pull through, whoops, yarn over, pull through. All right, I always like to give a little tug on those tails, make sure that first one's in there good. I don't do knots, as you could see. I will weave all of those in later. But now we're gonna continue all the way around this row as just a single. So we're kind of building up a foundation for that, that middle little decorative piece that we're putting into here. So go ahead and pause your video and continue all the way around with a good old single crochet. See you back at the other side. Okay, so here I am at the end of that row of single crochets. I have one left to do here. So I'm going to put that single crochet in that last green. Okay, now what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do a slip stitch over to where we started that first one. So go into that stitch, pull through again. Now we have not been doing this, we've been doing continuous rows. This is the first time, but we're gonna do a little bit of a decorative stitch here. We're gonna do a bead stitch. So I wanted to have a very distinct starting place there. So we did that. Now, we're gonna start with a chain 2 because this stitch is gonna have some height. I wanna make sure that we're bringing ourselves up to that so that it's not pulling it over. So chain 2 right there. And then we're gonna start in this next stitch right here. So we'll go through this a few times together. This is a bead stitch. We're gonna be putting a whole bunch of stitches onto our hook here before we pull through. So how we do that is we yarn over, we go through that stitch, come through, pull up your loop. You now have 3 stitches on your hook. We're gonna do that same thing again. So yarn over, go through that same stitch, pull up your loop, and come up. So now if you separate your stitches here, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're adding 2 stitches on each time we do it. We're gonna do it again, yarn over, in through that same stitch, pull up your loop. So now we have another 2 on there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're gonna do that one more time for a total of 4 times. Yarn over, gets a little tricky, you really gotta move those stitches around in order to get through there. So now there are 9 stitches here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I know, a little tough to see with this, but now with all 9 stitches on your hook, this is a little bit tricky, but you'll get used to it as you make your way around. You're gonna yarn over and you're gonna pull through all except the last one. So go through 8 until you have 2 loops left on your hook here. And then we're gonna yarn over and pull through those 2, which finishes off the top of the bead. Now, important, we're gonna chain 1 because we're gonna skip the next stitch. We're gonna put a little bit of room in between each one here. So that will help make up for that skip stitch. So now we're gonna come over to this next one. We're gonna do these bead stitches all the way around to give that nice decorative look. So yarn over, in and pull up your loop, 3 on the hook. Yarn over, in same one, pull up your loop, 5 on the hook. Yarn over, in through that same stitch, pull up your loop. We now have 7. We gotta do it one more time. Yarn over, in through that same one, pull up your loop. All right, so now if you take a look and count, we have 9 stitches on our hook. You're gonna yarn over and go through 8 of those 9 stitches. You gotta wiggle a little bit to get yourself through. You'll see that there's 2 left. Yarn over, pull through those 2, and then to finish, chain 1. All right, let's do it again. So we're gonna skip this next stitch. We're gonna come over here, yarn over, in and pull up a loop, yarn over, in and pull up a loop, 5 are on your hook now, yarn over, in and pull up a loop, there's 7, we gotta do it one more time, yarn over, last one's the toughest. All right, now we have 9 on our hook, yarn over, wiggle your way through. You don't wanna go super, super tight here, it's gonna be really hard. Whoop, I messed up, gotta do that one over. That happens. Yarn over, come through, yarn over, come through, yarn over, come through. We're gonna do it 4 times, so I need 1 more. All right, there's the 9 on my hook. Yarn over, wiggle through. All right, I've got 2 left here. Yarn over, pull through those 2, chain 1. All right, so as you can see here, we're getting a nice little decorative bead stitch here, which is gonna happen right in the middle of our bag because we're gonna do more of the stripes in a moment. So continue to do that all the way around. All right, we'll do one more together. So I'm gonna, again, skip 1. We're gonna go into this stitch right here. So yarn over, in and pull up a loop, yarn over in that same stitch. Whoop, hold on. Yarn over, pull up the loop, yarn over in that same stitch, pull up your loop, yarn over in that same stitch, pull up your loop, and the 4th one, yarn over, same stitch, pull up your loop. 9 on there, pull them through till 2 are left, yarn over, go through, and then chain 1. And we have this cute little, it goes more vertical on that stitch. All right, so go ahead and finish going all the way around. Remember, you're skipping 1 single crochet and then doing your bead in the one next to it. And I will meet you back over at this side and I'll show you how to finish off this row. All right, coming into the home stretch here with my decorative row of bead stitches. So you'll see that I'm gonna skip 1. I'm gonna put my last one right in here. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through, that's 2. Yarn over, pull through for 3. Yarn over, pull through for 4. Yarn over, pull through 8. Yarn over, pull through. I'm gonna do that chain 1, and then we're gonna do a slip stitch, and we're gonna go all the way over here to really the top of this bead. So this stitch right here, I'm gonna do a slip stitch, come through that, and through that last bead stitch. So you are gonna have that little chain 2 where we started this row, but it's on the end. You're not gonna notice it, but so here's where we are so far. We have our nice little bead row. All right, now what we're gonna do on this row is we're gonna finish it off the same way that we started it with that single crochet, a row of single crochet, and then we're gonna go back to doing our a herringbone half double in both the blue and the green. So let me show you what you're gonna do here for these singles. So I am gonna start with a chain 1. Just because we did that slip stitch, I want to make sure that we're getting that extra piece right in there. So we're going to start with a single crochet right here. It's in that slip stitch. All right. Now you have your bead stitch and you have your chain on each one. Your bead and your chain, your bead and your chain. So what you want to do is you want to get into the top of that bead each time with a single. And then you're gonna go, I'm gonna go into the chain 1 space with my next single, okay? So you're gonna go into the bead and then into the chain 1 space. Into this right here, that's your bead, and then into the space, okay? So see, it's kind of calling you right there that that's the space to go into. And then you're gonna skip right over the rest of that and go to the other side of it. So into this stitch right here, skip over, go into that space. Into that stitch, skip over, go into the space. All right, so you're gonna continue that around. We're just putting a little finishing edge on top of that bead with your single crochets. So you can go ahead and pause the video and make your way around to the other side of this decorative row that we just did. So here I am just finishing up that row of single crochets. I just did my last single in this space. I'm gonna go into this stitch right here, which is right above, this is kind of where we started in that first one, right above that chain 2 from where we started the bead row, and I'm gonna slip stitch. So go into that stitch, pull through, pull through. Now I'm gonna switch my colors again. I'm gonna go back over to the blue because we're gonna do our half herringbone half double. I'm gonna do another 6 rows here. So because I did a slip stitch, I only have 1 loop on my hook. That's fine. I'm just gonna bring my blue in right there, pull that down. So now you're gonna go into each of those single crochets that you just made, starting with this first one right here, and we're going back to that herringbone half double. So into your stitch, pull up your loop, pull through that first loop on your hook, yarn over, come through the last 2. Give a little tug on that tail, and we're gonna start that herringbone half double all the way around. We're gonna do 6 rows again of this one, and then when you finish with your 6 rows of blue, just go right into doing your green another 6 rows. So you've got 12 more rows to do, 6 blue, 6 green, or whatever colors you're using of the herringbone half double. And I will meet you after you finish those 12 rows, and we're gonna create the flap for our bag so it has a little bit of closure to it. So enjoy doing this, and I will meet you up at the top. All right, so I'm making my way to the end of this last row here, which is my 6th row. So I'm gonna do my herringbone half double right in that spot where my marker is, and I know that that's my last stitch for that row. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna move that marker to here because we actually have to flip our bag the other way. You'll notice it looks pretty different inside. That's really that nice herringbone look, even though we were just going in one direction. So go ahead, flip your bag to what now is really the right side out. So what you should have here is you have your base, which we did with double yarn, so it's a little bit wider. You could see it come in a little, taper a little bit. 6 rows of blue, 6 rows of green. We did a row of single crochet, a row of beads, and a row of single crochet for our little decorative accent there. Then we did 6 rows of the blue, and now we did 6 rows of the green. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna continue with that herringbone half double, but we're actually gonna work our way back in the other direction. So we're not gonna go around anymore because I just want a flap on the back of this. You'll see there's a little difference from the front to back. That's because we've been using continuous loops, and so there was no slip stitch to stop one row and start another. So it makes them off, but that's okay because that's where our flap is gonna go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm switching back to my brown yarn. So I'm gonna bring that in right here. Pull that down, okay? And now what we're gonna do is, starting right here in this same stitch that we ended in, we're gonna work our way across in that herringbone half double crochet, and we're gonna do 34 of them, because what we wanna do is we wanna get down to the other end, right down to here is where we're gonna stop with that flap. So go ahead and pause, and I will meet you down at the end after you finish that first row of your herringbone halves. All right, and I'm gonna finish off right here with that 34th herringbone half double. Okay, so we're gonna turn and go back in the other direction. So we wanna chain 1 and then turn your work. Now we are going to start in the chain, in the stitch immediately underneath the chain. So we are not counting that chain 1 as a stitch, and we're gonna come back in the other direction doing those herringbone half doubles. 1, 2, you're gonna go across with 34 of them again. So just work your way back down to the other end, and you're gonna finish in that last stitch, which is the herringbone half that we did to finish this row. So go ahead and continue your way down, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, so this is where we're gonna put that last stitch, which is the first one for making that row come down and across. Okay, so we have 2 rows now. We're gonna turn again, so we're gonna do our chain 1, and we're gonna turn, and we're gonna come back down. Now we're gonna continue this for 4 more rows. So you're gonna come back down, at the end, turn, come back. So we're gonna have a total of 6 rows of this flap. All right, so we did the chain 1. We're putting that first herringbone half right into that first stitch. And now continue your way down. If you want to check to make sure that you're staying in the right number of stitches, remember we did 34 when we started the first row of this, so you should continue to have 34. Now if you want your flap a different size, of course you can go ahead and make it a different size. We will put a little taper on this in a little bit, but for right now we're going to continue to do 34. So go ahead, do this row and then 3 more after it, so you have a total of 6 rows at 34 herringbone half doubles in each row. All right, so I'm just finishing up that 6th row on this flap. So I'm gonna finish with that last herringbone half. Excellent, all right. Now we're gonna start to make the flap taper a little bit. So as you can see right now, when that flap comes over, it's staying pretty even with the body of the bag. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have it taper in just a little bit towards the center of the bag. So we have to do a decrease on each side. So what we're gonna do is you're gonna turn your work, but I did not chain this time. So I did not do a chain 1 to start. And we're gonna combine 2 herringbone half double crochets together. So the way you're gonna do that is yarn over, come through that first loop, that first stitch, pull through and pull through the first loop, just like you did on the other ones. A little tricky getting through that first one. Oh, make sure you keep that other one on there. Okay, so we have 2 on our hook right now. We're gonna yarn over again, and we're gonna go into the next stitch, pull up our loop, and again, come through that first loop that's on the hook. So now you have 3 left on your hook. You would normally have 2 if you were doing a regular herringbone half double. We're gonna yarn over, and we're gonna come through both of those, okay? So for the remainder of the row, until you get to the last 2, we're gonna continue in that same fashion of doing our regular herringbone half doubles. Let me just do a couple here, and then I'll show you what putting those 2 together did. So you'll see that the end is now starting to take a little bit of a taper in. So go ahead and continue now on the rest of this row with your regular herringbone half double, but stop at the end when you have 2 stitches left, because we need to do another decrease down at that end. I'll meet you down there. All right, you could see I'm at the end of this first decrease row, so I have 2 stitches left here. So I'm gonna do the decrease now as yarn over, go in, pull through and through that first loop, yarn over again, go in that last stitch, pull through and go through that first loop right there on your hook, and now yarn over and go through the 3 remaining loops on your hook. Okay, the first row doesn't have a drastic decrease. You'll see it a little bit more as we do the next row. So we're gonna turn our work, And we're gonna start right off the bat with another decrease. So right here, you're gonna go right into this stitch that we just made, which was our decrease stitch. It's a little bit hard to see with this yarn, but get into the right stitch there. All right, so getting into that stitch right there, yarn over and pull through and through that first loop on your hook. All right, so we have our 2 on. Now we're gonna go over to the next stitch. So yarn over, come through, pulling up your loop. We have 4. We're gonna, oh, sorry, don't yarn over yet. Come through that first loop. So we're down to 3, and then pull through after that yarn over. All right, now we're gonna continue again the rest of the row until we get to those last 2 with that herringbone half double that we've been doing for the bulk of this bag. So you're gonna continue down to the end again, and I'll stop for a moment. You could see it starting to pull it in a little bit more now. We're gonna continue all the way down to the end of this row. So we are decreasing again when we get down to the end. So when you have 2 stitches left down there, now one of them is gonna be that decrease that we did from the row before, and then the other one is going to be the regular stitch. So go ahead and make your way down with your herringbone half doubles, and stop when you have 2 stitches left, and we'll finish this row together. All right, so I've made it down to the end of this row. Again, I've got 2 stitches left. We're gonna do that decrease, yarn over, go through that stitch, pull through and through the first loop on your hook, yarn over, go into that last stitch. This is our decrease from the row before. Pull through that stitch and the first loop on your hook so that you're left with 3, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. All right, so that gives us 2 rows of decrease now. If we flip our bag over and just take a look at what's happening here, it's not significant, but you'll see that it's just starting to round in a little bit more, okay? So we've done 2 rows of a decrease, all right? We're gonna do 2 more rows of a decrease. So starting this row again, we'll do the decrease together. We're gonna yarn over, go into that first stitch, which is our decrease stitch from the row before. First one's always the tough one to get through. It's tight. All right, we have the 2 on there, yarn over, go through the next stitch, pull through, go through that first loop. You have 3 left on your hook, yarn over, come through all 3. Now we're gonna continue back to that regular herringbone half double the rest of the way across until you get to the last 2, where we will do that decrease once again. All right, I'm at the last 2 stitches of this row, so we're gonna decrease again, come through and through the first on the loop, yarn over, go into that last, which was our decrease stitch from the row before, come through that stitch, first loop on the hook, 3 loops there, come through all 3 of them. We're gonna turn, we're gonna do this one more time. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start with that decrease, pull through and through that first loop. That's a tricky one every time. There we go. Okay, yarn over, go through the next stitch, pull through that first loop on the hook, so you have 3 left, yarn over, come through both. All right, and now we're off to doing that herringbone half double all the way down until we have 2 stitches left on the other end. So go ahead and continue that, and I'll meet you with 2 stitches left. All right, we're down at that end once again, 2 stitches left, so let's do our decrease. Yarn over and come through, yarn over, let's go through that decrease stitch from the row before, come through that first stitch, 3 on, and come on through. All right, So there we have our flap that we just kind of rounded it in a little bit as we came down. Now, if you wanted to keep going and you wanted to bring it in, if you wanted to make the flap longer, absolutely you can do that. But that's where I'm going to stop this flap right now. So the next thing what we're gonna do on this project is we're gonna work on doing a little, what do I wanna call it, the strap. We're gonna make the strap on here next. You could finish this off. We are done with that section. Again, if you wanted to go further, if you wanted to do more, by all means you can. That's where I'm gonna be stopping this right here. I wanted, we're over the green, but I wanted the blue to be showing on that. All right, so as you can see, I have fastened off my flap. I'm done there. We're now gonna start on the strap, which is actually gonna attach to the back of the bag, okay? So when we finished this last row of green, I did not fasten off and finish because I'm gonna pick that up and start using that. Now the strap I've made with double yarn again. I did both the green and the blue to make the strap, just to give it a little fun contrast. So this very last stitch right here, which is my herringbone half double from that last row, I'm gonna go, I'm at the back of my bag, I'm gonna go from the back of the bag to the front, all right? I'm gonna grab that blue yarn, my green yarn is already here, and I'm gonna bring them both onto my hook and pull through. Okay, so I'm gonna try to do this laying down as much as I can, laying the bag down so you could see what I'm doing, all right? So we're gonna do a back post single crochet basically to get this started. So what that means, first off, I'm gonna start here by just looping over and coming through. All right, so that's just that very first one. But now I'm gonna come to this next half herring. I'm gonna separate a little bit so you could see it. So this stitch right here, all right, I'm gonna go behind that. So back post, behind and in front. I'm gonna yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through both. So I'm making single crochet there, okay, but back post. I'm gonna do it again. Go behind that, I'm sorry, front post. I'm pushing that post forward. Pull through, yarn over, go through two. So these are single crochets just like we did on the bottom of the bag, only we're going around the post of that half double. Pull through, yarn over, pull through. So I believe that was 3, we're gonna do 6. Here's 4. Do another one, 5, and one last one, so go behind that, hopefully you could see it okay. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, okay? So as you could see, it's lifting itself up off of the bag here. So I'm just gonna continue with this back and forth, single crochets. So when I turn this, I make sure that I do that chain 1, and then I'm gonna go into that first stitch directly underneath my chain, with a single crochet. So go through, pull up your loop, yarn over and pull through. So again, it's nice and thick, so we don't want it stretching a lot when we make that strap. Here's 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. So we're going to continue that, doing that chain 1 each time that you get to an end of a row, so that you can turn and start immediately into that first stitch. Whoops, single crochet. It'll keep things nice and even. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, So as you can see, this is the back of the bag, and this is the strap that'll be coming off the back, and we'll go over to the other side with it. So keep going in this fashion until the strap is as long as you want it. My strap is 48 inches long. I wanted it to come across my body and come right above my hip with the bag. So you are just going to continue with those single crochets until that bag or that strap is as long as you want it. And we will meet over on this other end, and when we get over here, I will show you how we're going to attach it to this side of the bag. Have fun with your strap. Make sure that you keep that doubled yarn on your hook if you are using the doubled yarn. It does make for a nice thick strap, nice and sturdy. And I will see you when your strap is as long as you want it. All right, so you should be finished up with your strap now to whatever length works for you. I had originally said I was doing 48 inches. When I, brought it up here and tried it on, it was a little bit too long for me, so I actually brought mine down to 46 inches. So do what works for you. We are now going to attach this, and we're going to attach a little bit differently. We did a single crochet to start it, but we're going to actually go ahead and clip your yarn and finish off. So pull that yarn through that loop, that last stitch at the end, so that you're finished off. Okay, and now bring that yarn through a needle so that we can stitch this into place. So I'm using a nice big tapestry needle here. Thread that. Make sure you get all these little pieces. If you haven't noticed when you're working with this, it's about 4 strands there. All right, and I am keeping it doubled up. All right, and we're gonna start by going down through this very end stitch, which is the side of the bag, and then pull it right up against there, okay? From there, I'm gonna go back down to the bag. I'm looping around, so like a front post, I'm going around that stitch, and I'm gonna come up through the first stitch on the handle. And I'm gonna continue to work across in that fashion. So I'm gonna go around that next stitch, and I'm gonna go up through the next stitch right there, okay? So go around the stitch on the bag and go up through the next stitch of your strap. We're gonna keep doing that all the way across. Go around that next stitch, come up the next stitch, come around the next stitch, and go up through the strap of the next stitch, around this last stitch, and up the last stitch here. Now I'm going to bring this back down. I'm going to this next stitch, but I'm going to bring it down and inside. All right, and then I will cut. I might knot this back here actually, since it's on the inside and I want to make sure that my strap is nice and secure. I'm going to come around and then come through that loop before I fasten off. And then I will cut, and I will weave those ends in on the inside, and there we go. We have our strap attached to our bag now on both sides. It's nice and flat on both sides, which is what we want. And now it's time for us to go ahead and finish up and put the button and the loop on. So go ahead and grab your button, grab the yarn that you want to make a loop, and grab a needle that is small enough to fit through your button. So you may have to change needles for that. And I will meet you on the other side, and we will attach that button. We're just about done. Okay, before we attach our button, I'm gonna make a little loop. So what I did is I counted my stitches here at the flap, and I came up with 26. I then came in 13 on each side and marked it with my bobby pin so that I know where I want to make this loop, okay? Here's my button. So my button is gonna go here in a moment. So you wanna make sure that when you make the loop, you make it big enough that it'll slip over the button, but not loose. So this button will probably be a chain of about 8 in order for it to slip through. But let's go through that process. So I'm gonna go back to my brown yarn here, and I'm going to go into one of the stitches where I have my bobby pin marking it, and I'm just gonna pull that through, and now I'm gonna do a chain. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right. Now from right there, I'm going to go into the stitch where I had my other marker, because that indicates that I'm at the center, and we're going to do a slip stitch. So bring that in, pull it through, and then pull it through that stitch. So I've made this little loop here, but before I finish it off, I just want to make sure that my button is indeed going to fit through it. And it does. It's actually a little bit looser than I would like it. I would like it to be kind of tight so that it doesn't undo. So I'm gonna pull this off. I'm gonna reduce my chain by 1, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put it back into a slip stitch next to where I attached the other side. Good. Now let's take that just to make sure that it's not too small. Can we fit that button through? I can, and it's still easy enough to fit through, but it doesn't feel loose at all. So I will finish that off by pulling that through. We'll go ahead and weave in all of that later. So now we need to attach the button to the bag. So when the button is on, you want to be able to pull this loop down, get around that button, which it'll be lifted a little bit, so it'll make it easier to get around it. And when it's secured, you want it so that, you know, your flap stays in place, okay? So this is about where I want to put it. I'm going to actually mark it with one of my bobby pins so that I know where I want to go with that, okay? So I'm going to mark this right about there is where I want that button to go. So before you start, make sure that you have a needle that will go through your buttonholes, because that gets a little bit complicated. If you use a bigger one, it will not fit through. Get yourself some of the yarn that you want to attach your button with. All right, let's get that needle threaded and let's get this button on. I'm so excited, we're almost done. Whoops, let's try that again. Missed a piece there. We're gonna go to the other end now that I frayed that. All right, make sure you get all those little pieces through. All right, I'm gonna go inside my bag and I'm gonna come up at a stitch where I have my marker. I'm gonna take that out now. I'm gonna sit my button on there. I'm gonna come through, I'm gonna leave a tail. I will do a knot in the back of this. It's gonna be inside the bag, so it doesn't really matter if I knot it. But then I'm gonna come down on a cross. I like to put an X when I put a button on. Pull that through. Come up at the side. And bring that back through. Pull it through. Good. Make sure we're tight back there. And I think I'm gonna do one more time through. Come up and across it. I'm gonna come up again. You don't have to double it. I just want it to be nice and secure. There we go. Up and across. Now, we're gonna do one more little thing to this button. It's gonna help us when we go to fasten it. So come back up, but come up behind the button. So I'm not going through the button here, I'm coming up behind it. We're gonna do a couple of wraps around that button, and then we're gonna bring it back down through a different stitch than where we came up. All right, now I'm on the inside of the bag, and I'm just going to knot this off. Just do a regular knot there. Now I will leave a little bit of ends, and I will weave in my ends. I always do like to do some weaving in. But there we have the button. Now we could take that flap and we can go right around. Now you could count. I don't know that I went perfectly in the center. It looks pretty good. But you can count too if you want to see where those stitches, and there we have it. We are completed other than the weaving in. So there's the strap. We have the button on, and now you just need to go back and weave in. Don't forget that we flipped this bag, so you have some weaving in to do on the inside as well. So make sure you go back, take care of all of those ends, and your crossbody bag is now complete. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for joining me. And I will put written instructions up on my blog, which is CoachMel'sCrochetCorner.com. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope to see you again here real soon.